It's the image every soccer parent dreads. Your child plants their foot to cut, and they go down holding their knee, wincing in pain. No one touched them. As a sports physio, I've built my career around preventing that moment. If you have a child who plays soccer, the statistics are frankly a bit scary, especially for girls. In pivoting sports like soccer, female athletes are 2 to 8 times more likely to tear their ACL than boys. And that risk isn't linear, it explodes right around puberty. For boys, the risk goes up slightly slower. For girls, right around age 12 to 14, the line goes almost vertical. So as parents and coaches, we all do prevention of some kind. We might do warm-ups, landing drills, maybe even agility ladders. But those drills might be missing the most important piece of the puzzle. And in some cases, the way we are preventing this injury might actually be making the problem worse. This problem isn't just professional for me, it's personal. I've torn my own ACL twice. That second injury didn't just break my knee, it broke my faith in a perfect rehab system. It sent me on this investigation to figure out, why is everything we think we know about ACL injury prevention failing? What I found is a new way of thinking that I believe every parent, coach and player should know. And if you want to follow this investigation and learn how to build safer, better athletes, hit that subscribe button now. By the end of this video, I'm going to show you exactly what to look for at your child's next practice and the one question to ask to see if their coach is actually protecting them or just going through the motions. Now, we all know the success stories. You tear your ACL, you rehab and you come back a champion. Alex Morgan tore her ACL in high school and she came back to win 2 World Cups and an Olympic gold medal. She's the hope story. But my story, with a second tear, highlights the devastating reality of this kind of injury. The hard truth is that only around half of athletes ever return to the same level of competitive sports after an ACL tear. Look at Derrick Rose, Rookie of the Year, on the All-Star team, and in 2011, the youngest MVP in NBA history, an explosive, fearless player. After tearing his ACL in 2012, his body might have physically recovered, even after sitting out for the next season, but something, quite likely the fear of re-injury, changed his entire game. He lost that explosive ability, he became hesitant, not making the same cuts, and as a result, he was never the same player again. That is what we're really fighting. Not just the first injury, but the fear and the real risk of re-injury that comes with it. So, my investigation led me here. Why are our prevention efforts failing? For more than 30 years, the logic has been based on what we see. We would watch slow motion footage of a non-contact tear and we'd see this knee-in position. And for decades, the entire field of sports medicine, myself included, said, aha, that's the problem. That's the bad movement. If you just stop that movement, surely we can stop the injuries from happening. And this idea fit perfectly with the traditional philosophy of coaching. This idea that the coach's job is to fix movements. Now this fix-it approach led to programs you might have heard of like the FIFA 11 Plus, and on paper, in controlled studies, these programs do show a reduction in ACL injuries. So what's the problem? Well, for one, coaches and players don't actually do them. They're kind of boring, they're seen as a chore, and so real-world implementation is famously low. But the real problem is that even when they are done, they're still just drills that train the knees without the training in a soccer-specific context. They're full of isolated strength drills, static balance and pre-planned patterns, all designed to consciously force the knee out. But here is the fundamental flaw. An ACL tear is not primarily a strength problem, although being stronger is rarely a bad thing. It's much more of a perception problem. What does that mean? An ACL tears in less than 60 milliseconds. A nerve signal from your wobbly knee takes over 40 milliseconds just to reach your brain, and another 60 plus milliseconds for your brain to send the command back and make the muscles actually contract. And this is if you don't have to consciously think about it. If you need to think, move my leg, this adds another 100 milliseconds. The part of your brain that thinks knees over toes is way too slow. By the time you've had a thought, the injury's already happened and you are well on your way to lying in that heap on the ground. The real failure isn't conscious, it's a failure of what the player sees, the perception, and what their body does, the action. In that high intensity chaotic moment when the brain is processing the ball, a defender's foot and her teammate's run, all at once, that link breaks. Her eyes and her body are out of sync. And you cannot fix this kind of perception action problem with a dead drill that has zero perception. We often think this injury happens late in the game when a player is exhausted. But the research shows the opposite. Most ACL injuries happen in the first half of the game, with a quarter happening within the first 15 minutes. This tells us it's not a fatigue problem. It's not just about getting fitter. It happens because the player's system, their link between the perception and the action, wasn't prepared for the chaos of the game. Now, this brings us to the two analogies I live by. First, you have the puppet master coach. The puppet master is a dictator. They believe there is one perfect way to move. They yell explicit instructions like knees out or chest up. Like they know and control what the players should do, and the player's job is to be a puppet and reproduce that movement. This creates what I call a recipe follower. This player is great at the drill, they can follow the recipe perfectly. But the game isn't a recipe, it's chaos. The recipe follower's brain panics, their perception and action decouple and glitch. On the other hand, there's the gardener. They continuously manage the soil, the sun, the water, the nutrients, and let the flower find its own robust way to grow. They create master chefs. A master chef doesn't need a recipe. They can open a fridge, see 5 random ingredients and create a delicious meal. A master chef player has faced 1,000 different problems in practice. Their perception-action coupling is so well trained that they find 100 different safe solutions for how to land, cut and pivot, all without ever thinking knees over toes. Now this gardener coach approach, it's not just stepping back and letting them play. It's a high skill method. It requires a deep knowledge of what situations to avoid, what movements to encourage and how to change the game to guide players toward safer solutions, all without just telling them. So how do we do that? How do we build it? Let's build it right here with a simple experiment. Our goal is to train agility and safe cutting. Here's the old way. A pre-planned cone drill, the coach says, run to the cone, jump sideways over him with knees over toes, and run towards the cone in front of what you just jumped over. What are the players looking at? They're looking down at the cones. They're not perceiving an opponent. They're not deciding anything. They're acting without perceiving. And this is a closed and dead drill. This is the recipe follower. This skill does not transfer to the game. Now, the gardener way, we forget about the cones. We just make a box. We have an attacker and a defender. We give him a simple task. Attacker, you have to get to that end line. Defender, you just have to tag their hip. That's it. Go. Now what happens? Look at that. The player's landing on a bent knee, hip back, chest up. Perfect prevention posture. Did the coach tell him to do that? No. Did they think about doing that? Absolutely not. They were thinking, don't get tagged. Their body found this solution on its own because the gardener coach created a problem that demanded it. That is perception-action coupling. That is how you build a robust athlete. And the science supports this. It's not just my opinion. Multiple studies have tested this. They take one group and train them like puppet masters with traditional repetitive drills. They take another group, train them like gardeners with messy perception-based games. The results? The gardening groups show significantly greater reductions in the exact biomechanical risk factors for an ACL tear. Translated, they are less likely to tear their ACLs. And it gets better. Other research shows this same method also makes them better, smarter players, improving their tactical skills, decision making, and even their creativity. They don't just get safer, they get better at the game, and they have more fun at the same time. So what this all means is that our prevention logic can't just be based on what we see, that knee-in position. The solution isn't to drill kids like puppets chasing one perfect movement. That creates a recipe follower who's brittle. The solution is to be a gardener, to create a rich, playful and unpredictable environment that challenges their brain and body to adapt and find safe solutions on their own. So, as a parent, you now have a new job. That simple observation I promised, well, here it is. When you go to your child's next practice, I want you to be an observer. Watch the coach for 5 minutes and ask this one question. Is my child's coach a puppet master or a gardener? Are the kids standing in lines waiting for instructions? Or are they in smaller competitive games exploring solutions? Is the coach's main tool their voice? Or is their main tool the design of the practice? Are they training a recipe follower or are they training a master chef? As a parent, your first step is just to observe. Your child's health and their love for the game might just depend on that answer. If this new way of thinking was helpful and you want to learn more about this approach, hit that subscribe button. And if you want to learn more about what you can do to help your kid, watch this video next. Thanks for watching.